every time a fossil is found or is handed over to institutions to study, uh, they usually, the stories that come out when they are published, this information on the mainstream media or just daily newspapers, they usually have quite sensationalist claims, sensationalist headlines, etc. Um, and some are could be correct, some are not, some are just get views, etc. But occasionally a skull is handed in for study that could live up to the headline that it is published. First story comes from China, and it's on archaeology. Today I'm going to do one story on archaeology and I'm going to discuss two articles on well, one is sort of related to archaeology, the other one isn't, it's just biology. So I hope you enjoy. I hope I can live up to any expectations. I will try my best. And let's share the screen and start the thing. Here we go. This comes from the China Daily, and it shows here that the fossil skull may hold the answers to evolution of human species. Now, this skull, this article comes from this month, 18th of this month, and it is a skull that was handed in, a specimen to the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology, the Chinese Academy of Science. And it is basically, it has quite a good story. In fact, this skull was found in 1933. It was found by a certain Mr. It was handed, a farmer found this skull while he was excavating in a riverbank, the sediments of the Songhua River in Harbin, in He. Let's see if I can pronounce it right. Heilongjiang Province in 1933. Was found by a co-worker of this professor, the founder, farmer. The professor is Ji Qiang at Hubei GAE University. It was handed in by someone he knew, and apparently the original person who found it hid it from the Japanese army and from everyone because he thought it was quite interesting. Now, it's been identified as Homo heidelbergensis or Homo antecessor, and you guys have already discussed it. At least antecessor is the direct descendant of us, modern humans, Neanderthals, and Denisovans. So it is quite an important find, but there is a catch to it because we don't know the context of where it was found. I'm talking about archaeologists, and even here, Professor G says that the skull is thought to be at least from between 200,000 to 400,000 years ago. Now, that is complex because at that same time, we know, and especially in Asia, Erectus was living. And we have evidence of Homo erectus being there. We have evidence of Denisovans being there, at least 50,000-ish to, and furthermore, or well, not as far as 400,000, but close to 200,000 years ago. And Neanderthals, at least in the Altai Mountains where Denisova was found, which is not that far from this place where this was found. Yes, this is in Siberia, and to China, it looks like a long distance. Well, it is a long distance, but it's still not out of bounds to think that it wouldn't have been Neanderthals. The farthest east they have gone is around Siberia, where Denisova Cave is, the Altai Mountains. That appears to be the limit. To the east of that, Denisovans were the dominant, possibly the dominant hominin. We haven't found any at least any fossils. We may have already have them, but because the Chinese have them and they are not being tested in, incredible scientific, like the Max Planck Institute, which to me is the benchmark. There are other good ones, I have to say, but I would love for the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, Germany, to be have at least dated or examine it. Prove it wrong, prove it correctly, it doesn't matter. It's exciting news. So it says here, obviously, that Heidelbergensis is the common ancestor of Homo sapiens, Neanderthalensis, and Denisovans. We know that they say Heidelbergensis fossils have been found in Africa that dating between 125,000 to 300,000 years ago, in Europe 200 to 600,000 years ago. So this puts a question. The dates, the disparity in dates, could have Heidelbergensis moved into areas, for example, even from Eurasia, Western Eurasia, Europe, etc. Because the dates for Heidelbergensis are older in Europe than anywhere else. Now, it raises a lot of questions which will be answered once more extensive study has been performed in all the fossils, and I am really excited. I do hope they find possibly buried somewhere in a museum in China a complete Denisovan skeleton. It would be just blow me away, and it'll blow. You will see the headlines. I'll predict them. We have found a missing link or some sort of thing. You know, the usual exciting, excitable, clickbaity type. It'll change the world. We have to rewrite archaeology or history or whatever, or the evolution of the same old claptrap. But I will be excited. So yeah, that's about it. It's a good find, and this one has actually been, I think, loaned to Europe, to the European. I think it was even to Leipzig, to the Max Planck Institute or something. It doesn't say here, but I was following. I got this from a tweet that some of the archaeologists that I follow posted, so that's how I thought it was interesting. And we end this here. Nothing earth-shattering, but it is quite exciting that they found this extremely well-preserved fossil of Heidelbergensis. Now, let's go on to the next one before I... where is it? Now, everyone asks question, under the archaeology, I'm going into a little bit of biology. What makes a mammal? What is the distinct characteristic of a mammal? If you answer the most obvious question, it's like you are possibly wrong. Even I was wrong when I tweeted out to the original poster and tweet that gave me this news article. I answered the most obvious thing: a mammal is the mammary glands. That's why we get our names. But apparently, it's not. And apparently, I'll just share this. What makes a mammal is our spine. I'll read this. So this comes from Archaeology. It's again from the 20th, so it's last week. And mammals are unique in many ways. We're warm-blooded, agile, mammals, and agile in comparison to our reptilian relatives. And yes, that is true. But a new study that was funded by the National Science Foundation, has led by Harvard University researchers Stephanie Pierce and Katrina Jones, suggests we're unique in one more way, and that's the makeup of our spines. Researchers described the findings in a paper published this week in Journal of Science. I have linked in the description this journal, but it's behind the paywall, so I just including the abstract. But the study's there, and anyway, mammal backbones are different. The different sections or regions of the spine, like the neck, thorax, and lower back, take on very different shapes. They function separately and so can adapt to different ways of life, like running, flying, digging, and climbing. That is true, but we also share some characteristics with our not with, for example. Yes, I'm not. I'm not as clearly versed in this, so I will take their word for it. They show here one of an early mammal relative, the Edaphosaurus, who lived around 300 million years ago, and you can see here he had a very nice spinal column with he would have had the sail type structure in his back. Now, there's a lot of speculation of even dinosaurs, why, and some lizards, etc., reptiles, etc. Why do they have those growths and sails and adornments, etc., and their bodies? A lot of things, hence regulation of temperature, but mostly could have also been all of those and including to do with mating ritual. Imagine a canvas, a colorful canvas, because I believe that these animals were colorful. They're displayed, they're depicted on a lot of scientific and not just scientific papers, etc., studies, etc., as being bland or not very colorful. It's been changing now. You can see since Jurassic Park, the movie came out, to the modern depiction of. Since then, we have found that a lot of the non-Avarian and the Avarian dinosaurs, the ones that evolved into birds, had feathers. Like the T-Rex possibly could have had feathers. The raptors had feathers. And some other dinosaurs had feathers, while the other ones that were the non-avian dinosaurs, they were colorful. Most likely they were colorful because sexual selection, the competition to sexual selection, you need to stand out. So there would have been, they would have had colorful their pigments to like the birds, in fact, and even modern day reptiles. You see green lizards, green, blue, beautiful colored lizards, etc., and with patterns of that. And I believe, I hypothesize that, and not just me, but there's been many people, many scientists, paleontologists that have hypothesized that these sails were a display adornment for displaying, so they could get a mate, etc. Yes, let's go back to the article. So to tackle the problem of so the ancient ancestors hold the key to understanding the origins of mammal-specific characteristics, including the spine. Studying the fossils isn't easy. Of course, it's not. I've already explained why in some videos I made. To preserve a fossil, it's very, very hard and rare. So what we find now are very, very exceptional conditions that help preserve fossils. I've made a video. It's in my channel. So fossils are scarce, and finding extinct animals with all 25 plus vertebrae in place is extremely rare. Yes, it is. To tackle this problem, researchers combed museum collections around the world, studied the best preserved fossils, the animals that lived around 320 million years. That's where the paleontologists think mammals arose, and where they sort of split from the mammalian ancestors. They were the reptilian ancestors. They were still very reptile-looking, but they were just beginning to just be different from reptiles. So looking into the past, Obviously, the early changes to the mammalian spinal columns was an important first step in the evolution, obviously. And the changes in the spine over time allowed our mammals to develop into a myriad of species we know today. Not just us, all other animals have evolved myriad of species. Evolution is beautiful. It's awesome. So Pearson Jones, along with the co-author Ken Anglizik of the Field Museum of Chicago, examined dozens of fossil bones, spines, as well as more than 1,000 vertebrae of living animals, including mice, alligators, lizards, amphibians, etc. And so they identified vertebral zones which had remained unchanged in evolution, and hypothesized how they would look today. So they made this tree, the three stages of the mammalian backbone, from the phylogenetic tree. The bottom is the Edaphosaurus, which I just showed. Then the next one up is the Trinexodon. He is more characteristics of. He is what is now identified as the proto-mammal. He was a mammal living with the very early dinosaurs. In fact, the dinosaur ancestors, which were not much bigger than he was. It was a little bit bigger, but the dinosaurs were a little bit bigger. But he was about the size of a pit bull. So just so you guys know. And then on top you have a modern day mouse, and they've highlighted the colors of the different zones of the spinal and how they are found in the tree, from the Edaphosaurus. It's missing one part, which is that orange part, which Trinexodon got, but the mouse is smaller, so the comparative has changed. There's a video if you guys want to watch. I'm not going to play it because I can't show sound. So just explains how the sequence works. And so basically, our spine, the mammalian spine, is evolved differently from the other, from the reptilian spine, etc. And it is one of our individual characteristics that distinguish mammals from all the other animals, all the other orders. So yes, and we finished that one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Now we go back to a little bit sort of dealing with archaeology, but it's not actually dealing with archaeology. You guys know that I've talked about how or when we domesticated plants and animals. It was just before pottery, around 7,000 to 9,000 years ago, in the area which is called the Fertile Crescent, which goes from Turkey down the close Lebanon, Israel, into the Syria, Jordan, into Iraq, the Iraq, where the two Euphrates and Tigris rivers systems go. And there, just that were the first instance. There were also in the independent domestication events in the China and in the Americas. So it wasn't just invented once; it was invented 3 times at least. But what is domestication? Basically, it's modifying the genes of an animal or a plant or an animal, to enhance features that we want them to have. For example, the earliest grains, einkorn wheat, which gave rise over time to the wheat that we have now, the seed was attached to the stalk with a rigid little joint that was very hard to I can't remember the name of that little bit, but it was very hard to knock till the seed would be displaced, detached from the stalk. Now, genetic mutations on some of the grains meant that one or two heads of einkorn wheat, einkorn or emmer wheat, had that genetic mutation, which the seeds were just a little bit easier to break off from the stalks, and so they would have dropped into the ground. While the early hunter-gatherers still, and then later on the early farmers, the next stage, would obviously cut the grasses, because wheat and emmer wheat is a grass, and while those easier to detach grains would fall onto the soil. Thus, they were the ones that would grow next season, majoritarily. Over time, the genetic makeup of that area where the seeds were cut artificially by humans, which is different from birds and other animals, but by humans, the predominant strain of those seeds, those grasses, emmer wheat and hindcorn wheat, would be that joint the seed to the stalk. Can't remember what it's called, but never mind. Would drop off easily, and that was enhanced with agriculture because there was more control. That is one way of how you control, but it's basically you modify through time the genetic makeup of those plants and animals. The same thing happens with animals. Animals were basically penned up, and the early domesticators would possibly choose the more timid animals to breed. So we get them to this stage and now. But so if you guys want to see how the especially this is fruit and vegetables, how they look before we domesticated them, and we're going to do a sort of a little trip down memory lane. It says here it's from nature. Here's how fruits and vegetables looked. Genetically modded foods, or GMO, inspire strong reactions today, but humans have been tweaking genetics for our favor, produced through millennia. Yes, we have engaged in GMOs since agriculture was invented. Every plant and animal that is natural, even today, is still hasn't been touched with Monsanto or all those huge, you know what I mean, are still GMOs. From the bananas and eggplants, there's some of the foods which are totally different from what humans started off growing. Here's a picture, or at least a painting from Giovanni Stanchi, which showed wild watermelons, and you can see the red part that we know today compared to what it is today is very small and had big black seeds. Now, basically, today we have seedless watermelons. You can also see some plums, some possibly cherries, pears in this picture. So that's how it looks. The next one, we have the wild banana. Wasn't it Ken Ham? No, it wasn't Ken Ham. Who was that atheist creationist who said, the banana, it was created to hold in your hand? Except that it wasn't, because that's how bananas looked when it was first cultivated 7,000 years ago. And possibly it's vagueness. What is now Papua New Guinea, around at least 7,000 years ago, was cultivated and domesticated. As you can see, it's small, green, and has a lot of seeds, which are quite hard. This is the modern banana, and you can see totally different. We have modified them over time to be from this fruit to what we know now. And today, there's a problem with the banana because we now only have two varieties, basically. And they came from two wild varieties, the Musa acuminata and the Musa balbisiana, and they which had large seeds. But if a fungus or a virus infects bananas and we can't, the banana plantations all over the world, and we can't deal with it, bananas could go extinct because they are just too restrictive. And so they're now producing hybrids to try and introducing other GMO genetic modifications for them to resist any pests, etc. Eggplant. We all love eggplant. We all love eggplant parmigiana, for example. And this is how the wild fruit looks. Small, yellow, and it's Solanum incarnium. And that's how it looks. And it was first cultivated in China. And they have the plants have spines, used to have spines in place where the plant stem connects to the flowers. So they were prickly. Now, the modern version is like this. And we've gotten rid of the spines, we've gotten rid of most of the seeds. There are two types of one. They're called quote unquote, they're seed carryings anyway, but one has less seeds and they've been called male for some weird reason, I don't know why. And the other, the same plant, you can get one that have more seeds than the one that's next to it, and that's called the female of the eggplant. It has nothing to do with it, but never mind. And you can see here that this one's the female because it's got a lot of seeds. But that's how the eggplant was. Next one, carrots. We all love carrots, don't we? Got a lot of carotene, good for your eyes, etc. But this is the wild carrot. And as you can see, it's just a root. And I'm sure hunter-gatherers have been eating this plant for a long time. But the earliest carrots were grown in the 10th century Persia and Asia Minor, Western Asia. And is thought to have originally a purple or a white with a thin forked root, and that's how it shows here. The modern day variety is like this, nice and orange, but you can also get them in purple and a few other colors. Parsnips are white, but they're not carrots, but they look similar, so that's another thing. Corn, maize. In South America and Central America, you got this grass, and over time, around 7,000 years ago, they began to domesticate this plant into modern maize that we know now. There are many varieties of maize as well, and as you can see, what genetic modification, GMO, natural, over time, the farmers, they're selecting for bigger grains, etc. You get to this, the modern maize today. Which is totally different from the wild variety, as is the carrot. Some of them, the eggplant, you can sort of see. The banana, you can almost sort of see. Even the watermelons, you can almost, but the carrot and the maize are just way out of. We just modify them so much that they're not relatable if we find them and compare them. That's what confuses that guy. What's his name? Damn it. Kirk Cameron's mentor. I know Kirk Cameron was holding the banana in that video. But anyway, so peach. This is the wild peach. It was the natural wild peach, 4000 BC. As you can see, it was only 25 millimeters tall in diameter, more or less. Had 64% edible flesh. It had a waxy skin, and the stone was 36% of its mass. They reckon it tasted sweet, sour, and slightly salty. And today we get the artificial peach, which is 90% edible flesh, 10% stone, soft edible skin, and it has grown it quadrupled in size. And it's sweet, more juicy, and has more water content. Ray Comfort, thank you, Davey. That's the one I was thinking about. I couldn't remember him. I could remember Kirk Cameron, but I couldn't remember Ray Comfort. Cheers, man. And we get the end of the article, and that's it. So the next time you debate an atheist like Ray Comfort and says, the banana, God created the banana, you'll say, nope, here's a picture of a wild banana. But the pear, nope. Here's you can get the wild pears. Is still apples were small, crab apples. They're supposed. I'm sure everyone knows what a crab apple is. They're super tart little berry type things that you're supposed to eat them after a couple of frostings to sort of temper the fruit, and they are still tart. Well, you make jams out of them, I think. I'm sure, but yeah, all plants and animals that we have today are totally different from their wild ancestors, and you can see how much humans have progressed over the 9 to 10,000 years of domestication from now, more or less 9 to 10,000 years ago when we first started domesticating, how much we modified our environment and the plants and animals around us. And this ends it. Today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for being in. I'm just going to see the chat. If anyone has a questions, I might so I can answer. Just get rid of these. Okie dokie. Let me see. Let's start from the top. I'll read this slowly. I've got 5 minutes. I can see about 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. Let's see. Any questions? Hello, hello, new people. Eric Lee. Oh, Ludicrous. How are you, man? Who else? Paulo Costa. How are you, mate? Who else? Hello, Beach. John, any questions? Any questions? I already mentioned it. What? I can't read the chat. Sorry, John. I had already mentioned that. If you only read the chat, yes, I know. Yes, you did, but I didn't read the chat, man. But I can see Ray Comfort. Yes, you did. About Manama. Yes, you did. You mentioned him. I just was reading the article. I could not read the chat, but I glanced at Davies' post as well. But yes, you were the first, obviously. And thank you, man. Hey, DM. Any questions? No questions. Pakistanism for interbreeding plants and animals, Apollo. Not just plants, animals as well. Well, I see that there aren't any questions. Let me see. Eric, no, I haven't seen the domesticated foxweed, no. But if they found domesticated genes in foxes, modern foxes, it's because foxes are obviously they're canines, and they would breed. They can and do breed with dogs, for example. You can see in America, the coyotes and the wolves are interbreeding themselves. They're producing this. What's been dubbed by the media as Franken coyote, because it's a hybrid between the coyotes and the wolves. They're intermediate between the two in size, so they're bigger than the coyote but smaller than the wolves. They have characteristics of both, and they are very aggressive. And also, I don't know enough about them to explain them better, but yes, that's if they do found the domestic gene in them, it's nothing out of the ordinary. Cats. We didn't domesticate cats. There's a hypothesis that cats domesticated us because cats don't work. Well, they do catch rats and mice and that, but they don't work. They just adopt us basically, and anyone that says otherwise is wrong. Because cats, I love cats. I love dogs. I have both, and so yeah, it's cats are and weird. I think they domesticated us. They're like toddlers that they train human. They're the parents. So, yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think I'll end it here. Thank you all for coming on, and see you next time. Try and get something uh, up next time. So, good night, everyone.